Cursed Gingerbread Child by Oliver Wiesmann. Jonathan was hanging off of a cliff with one hand while the other was gripping the good gingerbread man's hand. One day earlier, Jonathan was an ordinary school kid who had totally normal friends. He was wide-shouldered, tall, and skinny. He was in 6th grade at a school in California, somewhere near the Mexican border. Meanwhile, close to the American border, still in Mexico, 2 men were digging around for treasure. One was named Juan and the other Dante. Suddenly, Juan stepped on something and fell through a hole in the ground. He pulled out his foot and looked inside. He noticed that there was something wrapped in a towel of some sort. He unwrapped the object and saw it was the cursed gingerbread child. He had always thought it was a legend, but now it was real. The legend said the curse was if you were to hold the gingerbread child, then you and your family would be cursed. The gingerbread child would try to kill you, but the only way to stop it was to kill it before it got to you. Juan suddenly stood up and started walking and said, Dios, no, no, no. ¿Cómo puede ser esto? While he was still holding the gingerbread child, he walked across the road, and literally out of nowhere came a car going extremely fast. It hit him. Dante, who was the only witness to this, noticed a second after it had happened that something wasn't right. The weird thing about it was that the car crashed into Juan, but also moved around him. He lay dead in the middle of the accident, but he was still holding the gingerbread child, and Dante ran to get it. When Dante understood what it was, he was shocked. He immediately got in their carpet transport truck, which they actually used to transport illegal items. But tragically, the gingerbread child attacked. He was distracted and his truck flew off a cliff. But more about that later. Juan was a relative of Jonathan, so the curse was now on him too. 3 hours before impact, Jonathan was in the middle of English class and went to the bathroom. Suddenly, the fire alarm went off. He quickly flushed the toilet, but it overflowed. He tried to get out, but he couldn't. 10 minutes later, the bathroom was almost full of toilet water, but to his advantage, the door broke, and the water flew out with it. He stood up, sopping wet, and there was a small gingerbread man with a lollipop and sprinkles standing before him. Jonathan thought, this is pretty weird, but the toilet thing was weird too. The gingerbread man said, Yo, Jonathan, I'm the brother of the evil gingerbread child. What? asked Jonathan. The gingerbread man was interrupted by a loud explosion, followed by several more. Jonathan looked around and saw a monster made of magma and explosives that could explode at any moment. The small gingerbread man quickly started walking. Come on, I don't think you want to die because of that thing, he exclaimed. Jonathan started following him and then started running. The monster was following them. While they were running, Jonathan shouted and asked over the noise, Who is he following? You or me? No time for chit-chat, just follow me, said the gingerbread man. They kept running until they got to the end of the hallway. The monster just kept running until he exploded. He took down the entire school with him, the shockwave flinging both him and the gingerbread man out of the already exploding school. The last thing Jonathan saw before fainting was a carpet transport truck driving by. He and the gingerbread man dove into the back of it and blacked out. A while after Jonathan was awakened by the shaking of a truck on a bumpy road, he noticed that it was pitch black. He blinked several times before noticing that it wasn't a dream, neither was he blind. He was stuck and he couldn't move. It seemed that he was wrapped in a blanket of some sort. The first thing he said was, Gingerbread man, are you there? Yes, are you okay? The gingerbread man said. Don't you have some magical powers or something like that? Jonathan asked. Yes, I have a wand. A lollipop. That's not going to help us get out of here, said Jonathan. No, this one has magical powers. Not exactly the kind of thing you'd buy at your local supermarket. It will get us out of here. I just waved it. Suddenly, there was a bump, and they felt themselves falling. There was a loud crash, and they stood still. The back door opened, and all of the rugs fell out and unwrapped. Jonathan and the gingerbread man stood up and dusted themselves off. The gingerbread man walked up to the driver's seat. Dante was there, but he was dead, holding the cursed gingerbread child. The gingerbread man quickly grabbed the evil gingerbread child and ran into the cave. Jonathan ran after him and said, "Hey, where are you going?" The gingerbread man shouted, "Just follow me." "Well, there's been a lot of following going on," said Jonathan, following him. When he got into the cave, he saw paintings all over the walls, paintings of gingerbread men, women, and children. "Where are we?" Jonathan asked. "We are in a secret council cave where all the gingerbread men and women meet once a year to try and to locate the evil cursed gingerbread man. Gingerbread child, my bad. Our history is stored here going back trillions of years." "What? A trillion years? That isn't possible. The Earth hasn't existed that long. We have existed for around several trillion years, and our home planet was called Gingeria Bretonia. We came to Earth after our sun, called the Oven, burned out." The gingerbread man opened a door and led Jonathan to a huge council ring. He opened a door to an empty box. "That's where we keep the cursed gingerbread child, to keep our people alive," he said. He put the child into the box, and a huge wind gust came up and pushed both of them out of the cave, right over the edge of the cliff. Just at the last minute, Jonathan grabbed the gingerbread man's hand. With one hand on the edge of the cliff, with the other, they hung there until the edge of the cliff started breaking off. Jonathan thought he couldn't hold on for another second, and he was right. Suddenly, they were falling and falling and falling, and Jonathan thought it must be the end. But all of a sudden, they landed on something extremely soft, and it made a very, very weird noise. It made a fart noise. Jonathan noticed it was a magical whoopee cushion. "I told you the wand would help us," the gingerbread man said. The end. Thank you for listening.